Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hubris, which is highly unsolicited book reviews for invested spouses. My name is Jessica.
My name is Mark, and Jess definitely didn't have to read that off of a piece of paper because she couldn't remember it as she was reading it. Well, listener, thank you for joining us for another episode. Today we're going to shift things up a little bit. We're not doing so much of a classic novelization, but rather we're dipping into light novels. In particular, we're looking at the 7th Time Loop series, which is actually an anime. I think we've mentioned it in some of your...
We have, yeah, it's been mentioned.
So today we're actually going to be talking about it. We're super excited because we both absolutely loved the anime. It was really funny, lighthearted, but some good laughs. But the actual light novels are quite good themselves. So now keep in mind, this is a Japanese light novel translated English, or
yes, it's translated to English by the Seven Seas Company, the same company that does the Danmei translations for things like Motozushi, Heaven's Official Blessing, Scum Villain, etc.
Yes, which we will eventually get to all of those.
Yes, I actually plan on doing a read of those soon because a friend of ours...
I might reread a couple of them.
Yeah, well, a friend of ours is going to read them too, so who knows, maybe we'll do it together.
Revive the book club.
Revive Reader Rabbits.
Oh, we can't. That's copyright. Reader Rogers.
Reader Rabbits?
Pretty sure Reader Rabbit is like a branded like kids thing.
Oh, maybe.
Now we have to pay them alimony or whatever the hell it is.
Alimony? Yeah. You were married to them.
Well, yeah, in the eyes of the law, they now own 50% of our
Well, we had a book
club
called Reader Rabbits.
TM, trademark. Yeah,
anyways,
it was great. It was a great book club.
So Seven Seas does translations for mostly from what I know about the company is mostly light novels and mangas, and then they recently switched over into Danmei, which is awesome, and they've done really well for themselves. But that's what I don't know if all anime fans know, that the majority of the original content for the animes they love are usually light novels or manga, not just manga. So light novels are huge in Japan.
Yeah, it's kind of like the natural progression. It's like you've got you have a dedicated story that has a following, and then either the light novel comes first or the manga comes first, and then the other will follow. And if those do well, they get picked up by a major animation studio to do like a full show.
Yep.
And if it's really popular, they'll get picked up right away for 24 episodes rather than like 12.
Yeah.
And this one I think is
12,
yeah. Which is a shame.
And it's the first 2 light novels, so it's very, very typical for any light novel that's being translated to the screen that the first light novel is usually the first 6 episodes. So for instance, that's how Apothecary Diaries is as well, if anybody's a fan of that, because I've read the light novel, so I can say that for certain. So usually the first light novel is about 6 episodes in length worth of content. Yeah.
So this series follows a main character called Riche. She's stuck in a time loop. So she has looped her life 7 times. Every time she has taken a different path, she's pursued different interests, but she always gets caught up in this war that's perpetuated by
Arnold.
Yeah,
I think is his last name.
Yes. It's perpetuated by this Prince Arnold, who basically his father passes away. He becomes emperor.
He kills his father.
Okay, he kills his father. I'm trying not, spoilers, whatever. Spoilers. But he kills his father, and then he becomes emperor, and then he's like very militant, and he pursues a war that basically she keeps getting caught up in. So in this,
it's the cause of her deaths in each of her lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and in one of her lives, she actually became a knight in a different kingdom and actually was killed by him, and that was the 6th life.
Yep.
So now she's resurrected in her 7th life, and right as she's brought back to life, the moment that she keeps coming back to is the point at which her fiance, who's the prince of her country, is like breaking up with her publicly and accusing her of being a terrible bride, even though he's like cheating on her and he's
Basically,
an awful
he
person.
accuses her of being a bully
Yeah,
to the person he actually likes.
Yeah, it's really dumb. But basically, he breaks his engagement off with her, and then pursues somebody else, and so that's where she keeps looping back to. And then it's like after a couple loops, she doesn't even let him finish the conversation. She's like, "Okay, bye."
Yeah, like I have to run home before my parents lock me out. I need to like steal my belongings so like I have some money to make my way in this world.
Yeah, so it's got a lot of charm. It's really funny because, again, like the show's like briefly, the first couple loops were kind of rough, and then she kind of got used to it, and she's like, okay, screw you.
Yeah,
I'm out of here.
Yeah. So in her first life, she is very embarrassed by this happening, and then she goes home, and she's not allowed to basically go into her home because her parents disown her for being broken up with. And so she basically just has the clothes off of her back, and she runs into a traveling merchant, and they are the head of this company called the Aria Training Company. And she then becomes a merchant in this life. They take her in. And so she learns all about trade, and it's a huge asset to her, so that she basically in her second life then learns, there are some medical herbs that are and medical knowledge that is across the seas. So in her second life, when she loops, she's like, I'm gonna go over there and I'm gonna learn all about medicine. And then in her third life,
and also like in her second life, she leaves early to go get to go get like her jewels and stuff.
Yeah, like as soon as it happens, she's like, I'm gonna rush over, grab my jewels, and then use that money to travel overseas.
She was gonna meet up with the trading company, but then she missed them because originally she was like delayed, like the timing was off between the time loops, so she ended up missing the trading company in her second run, and so then she used the jewels to go overseas and pursue like an apothecary lifestyle, and she was trained under like a genius apothecary. And then I think her third life was a maid.
She was a alchemist.
Yes, the third life she was an alchemist. The fourth life she was a maid.
Yeah.
The fifth life she was
a hunter.
And the sixth life she was a knight.
Yeah.
And so now we've gotten to her seventh life. Where again she walks out on this person, but in all of her she walks out on the prince that broke up with her. She's like, fine, whatever. She goes straight home. But in all of her other lives, as she was going straight home, she went like one specific way through the castle, and this time she went a different way through the castle.
Because she's like, it's going to be faster.
This will be faster, and she ended up running into Prince Arnold, who was visiting at the time. So he's like the classic dark-haired, like sharp features, cold eyes, like super fit, very slim but strong-looking Duke character. Was literally like he's like my favorite archetype from any of these shows.
I know, me too. He's quite good-looking.
And they have like a brief conversation, and keep in mind, in her previous life, he just killed her, so she kind of freaks out, and he picks up on the fact that her senses are attuned. Like, he's a master swordsman, so he picks up on the fact that she clocks him when he's used to not people, like he can walk without being noticed because he's so skilled, but she picked him up, and so he's like, are you a swordsman? And she's like, what the hell are you talking about? And then she ejects out of the conversation by literally jumping off a balcony,
like a second-story balcony,
and like tucks and rolls out of the way.
And and then she like breaks her shoes so that she can run easier.
She breaks the heels off of her shoes, and she's like, okay, bye. Forget you ever saw me.
And so she runs off, and he starts
laughing.
He's smitten.
He's smitten immediately. He thinks she's hilarious. So long story short, she goes back home, and then the prince who broke up with her comes back to her house to confront her again. And during that confrontation, Prince Arnold comes by and proposes to her.
Yeah. So in this life, she decides, okay, I guess I'm going to be Prince Arnold's wife. And because she knows that his war has caused her downfall 6 times, she's like, I'm going to stop this war. So that's the whole like premise of the series. Each book focuses on, her trying to make good on that plan. She basically wants to live the life of like, she wants to live the life of sloth. She wants to be
Yeah.
very lazy. She wants to basically just enjoy life because she's always been working in all her life. So she's working very hard in this life to basically have a life of leisure. And that's actually one of the stipulations that she has when she
agrees to get
when
married
she agrees
to
to
him.
get married.
She's like, I'll marry you, but only on one condition.
I can
will
do
be
whatever I want, and I can be
whatever-
lazy.
Yeah, I will do whatever I want, and I will be a lazy layabout.
Yeah, that's all she wants to do.
And from like a political standpoint, the reason why the marriage actually makes sense is that Prince Arnold is like this militant powerhouse, and so he needed a wife, but really what he needed politically was like a captive. So he basically marries a hostage. So he you know, to appease his father, marries Riche because he's like, okay, she's obviously he's smitten with her, but it also has the dual purpose where he's supposed to bring back some noble from this other kingdom to keep them in line, right? Basically being like, we have one of your high-ranking nobles, don't step out of line or she's gonna get the axe.
Yeah,
but he never really behaves like that. But like that's
he doesn't. Like his whole thing is he's like, you can basically whatever is within my power, you will. Like, I will grant you. And he literally will change his plans to a certain extent to allow her the freedom that she wants. And they work very well together. It's a very cute story. So again, she's working tirelessly to try and stop him from starting the war, but she also ends up running into people from her past lives, so it's cool for them to like interact this time. And each book kind of focuses on a different life. Now with there being 6 books, each book has focused on a different life, which has been kind of neat to see the background of all of that. And
like characters from her old lives
characters from her old
coming
life
into this life, and we're getting like the background story from her old life. So book 1 is she's kind of finding her way as the new bride of the prince. She has her own place, she's building her own, she has like a maid, she's like training, she's like working on finding her own people within this a new kingdom, a new place. And then it also involves her meeting with and getting the support of the Aria Trading Company from her previous life. Yeah. She also gets the support of the king's younger brother, who Theodore, who basically really wanted his brother's attention and wanted his brother's love, but because they're like technically they're both in line for the throne, so
and they do have different mothers.
So it's kind of like this thing where like the older brother is pushing the younger brother away because he doesn't want him to be involved in the politics, and he's kind of setting things up so that the older brother is setting things up so that he's remembered as the villain, and then when he dies or is executed, the younger brother can run a peaceful kingdom that the older brother sacrificed himself for.
Yeah, well, that's what the younger brother believes. Yeah, we're not sure that that's exactly what's happening.
Right, but that's like the younger brother thinks that's what's happening. So the younger brother's trying to also sabotage himself and make himself seem awful. So there's no chance that he could be the heir. So it's like this kind of sweet brotherly relationship at the end, but there's like some conflict leading up to that.
Yeah.
But very solid first book. Like I was like, okay, actually.
Yeah, Mark read it, by the way.
Yeah, I did read this one. I really liked it. And then book 2, the conflict in that was.
So in her third life, when she was an alchemist, there was her like teacher, and I think his name is Michael, and he is the person who comes up with the idea of gunpowder. So ultimately, she thinks it's too dangerous of a chemical, so they end up parting ways in that life after he's like trying to find somebody to sell it to basically cause like the most amount of damage.
Right, because he believes ultimately that he was put on this world to be a poison to the world.
Yes.
And so he was he created the most destructive thing that he could imagine.
Yeah, so he's like a genius. His dad was a genius, and I guess his mother died during childbirth, so the father basically said like you're awful, and so he internalized that as like, I'm gonna do evil, basically. So that's one aspect of the book. Yeah, kind of weird. But there's another aspect where there's another prince, and he's sickly. And he is invited to their wedding, but he ends up showing up early because he can't make the day of the wedding. But what he's really there for is he wants to try and get the alliance from an alliance from Prince Arnold to save his kingdom. So his kingdom, I can't remember the prince's name.
Yeah, they had no natural resources other than gemstones.
Yeah, and their gem mines are drying up, and they live in a very harsh climate where it's half of the year is cold. So they have a lot of skilled tinkerers because, again, they're stuck inside all day. They work with their hands a lot to get through the cold winters.
No military to speak of. And basically, Richet's trying to help him pitch a case to Arnold for why they should have an alliance. And Arnold is like, yeah, but I can't just, like, it would be almost better if I just conquered them.
He was like, if I'm not interested in an alliance because
I gain
nothing from this, so I could just take you over. So Rishi does get involved, and she does try to basically keep gunpowder away from Arnold, who again wants to start a major war, and help this prince that she knew from her previous life to help his people. And in through the plots, it's found out that Arnold is interested in creating a new money system eventually. So he's like, okay, if you guys are skilled tinkerers, like, we can put you to good use, and maybe we'll use you to create new coins for us as well. So he does end up finding a purpose for them after, a lot of nudging by his bride to be. And so that book ends up in a happy ending, kind of.
And Richet ends up utilizing the gunpowder. Basically, the guy couldn't get Richet was keeping her old master away from Arnold. So as kind of like a show of the power of gunpowder, he basically set up a bunch of bombs in the city and was going to let them go off as kind of like now the cat's out of the bag. This is a demonstration of how powerful this stuff is. And instead, Richet sends out her own team of people who she's trained up from the first book and her trusted retainers, and with Prince Theodore's help, finds all of them and then converts them instead into fireworks.
Yeah.
And so then her old master sees that the gunpowder he designed for destruction was actually used to create something beautiful, and then he's able to learn a lesson. It's like classic anime, like lessons and stuff, but it's sweet. It was like I that was also in the show, so like that one was really, I like that.
Yeah, and the love story is very subtle. So at the beginning, like, she basically even tells him, like, you're not even allowed to touch me, like, I don't want you touching me at all. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then they slowly move up to where he's allowed to touch her if he's wearing gloves, and then eventually he forgets to wear gloves, so he's like, okay, like, I now owe you something because I touched you without gloves. And then by the end of this last book, they end up sleeping in the same bed together and kissing. So, like, their relationship definitely progresses as the books go on. It's a very cute romance.
For those of our loyal listeners who listen to some of the other books we have talked about, the peak so far has been laying in the same bed. And
sleeping in the same bed and smooching, yeah. And she's very flustered. Like, she's lived 7 lives. We should have mentioned that she only lives 5 years after the date of her broken
it's not like
engagement.
She's living 7 full lives.
Yeah, so she only lives 5 years. So in 7 years, she's still in the body of a 15-year-old girl, I believe is her age, but she's mentally much older. And but she had never pursued romance in any of her other lives, so she's super flustered. She doesn't know how to handle her feelings. She's super shy. So that can honestly get a little annoying. They lay it on a little thick in this. So if that's not something that,
it's Freaky Friday vibes. 30-year-old in a 15-year-old body.
Yeah, so she just gets, like, super flustered anytime he's, like, near her, anytime he says her name, like, and it's a huge aspect of the book. But anyway, so book 3,
yes, this is now we have fully diverged out of.
Can I see the cover? I just want to remember.
Yes, we have a purple-haired
Girl, yes,
girl
okay.
with golden eyes, and then we have a brown-haired boy with red eyes.
Yes.
And they both look, the girl looks mischievous and the guy looks angry.
Yeah, so basically in this book, Rishi remembers, oh shit, I'm still engaged, like through the church with my ex-fiance. So in order for me to get married, I need to go to this church and basically like say a bunch of prayers and like be forgiven for breaking that engagement. Because I guess in this world, you kind of like, once you're engaged, you like pledge yourself together for a period of time, like in an engagement period that is sanctioned through the church. She basically like needs like a annulment for her engagement. And so she's like, I have to travel to the holy city in order to get that, because only the high priests can grant us this. And Arnold is like, yeah, sure, I'll come with you.
But he hates churches.
Yes, he hates everything to do with the church, and you do find out why throughout the book. But on the way there, she runs into this little girl who she was the maid for in her fourth life, and she knew that this girl was going to be there, and that's why she kind of timed it at that time so that she could be there when the little girl was there, so that she could see her in this life. And long story short, there's a bunch of plot with the little girl, and you find out that the little girl is the last living heir of the goddess bloodline, because it is a matriarchal society. So anybody with purple hair is known to be from the goddess bloodline. And the only previous female who lived in this timeline was Arnold's mother. So Arnold is a descendant of the goddess. He has goddess blood in him. That seems to give him accelerating healing powers in the book that I just recently read. So there is some kind of mythical, magical aspect to Arnold's character.
Well, I mean, there had to be something. She's stuck in a time loop.
Yeah, so she's stuck in a time loop. He's got a bit of magic, but it also seems like he's a little too good to be true as well. Like, he's super skilled with a sword. He's super smart. He knows so much about this world. So I personally think that Arnold is also looping.
Yes, I said that as much when I watched the show, because I really felt like, okay, Arnold is probably stuck. Like, I feel like he remembers all of the loops as well.
Yeah. I don't know if he's on the same loop as her. It seems like he's been looping longer, if I had to guess. Mm-hmm. There's just something about his character that speaks of more experience.
It's like he's like ageless.
Yeah.
He's almost like he's got a wisdom of, he's like 60, you know what I mean? Like, he's so calculating. It's and even in the, honestly, in the intro to the anime, there's like these little hints of him, like she like goes by and then like it turns to night and she fades into starlight and he's like reaching out a hand for her. Yeah. And so it's kind of feels like he keeps missing her in these lives, and now they're finally together. Yeah. But he's been looping for years and years and years until he found her, kind of a thing.
That's honestly what the vibe that I get. And I think the reason why he starts the war every single time is he's just trying to like end his life. That's what I think is happening. You know, like he's done his best to try and make the world a better place originally, I think, because he's very jaded, he's very cynical, and she's like showing him the beauty of life.
Yeah, but like that's the thing. Like, it's kind of this thing where he starts this war, like this world war pretty much, and like almost ends the world. But you also then look at his country of Galkine, and it's like he's instituting reforms to, you know, help the people in the slums. He's, you know, trying, like he's cleaning up the streets. He's trying to build hospitals and get health care. And it's like, so these are not the actions of somebody that wants the world to burn. Exactly. But it almost feels like these are things he already figured out in a previous life when he was trying to make the world better. And then he still kept looping. And then, so he's still doing those things because he thinks they're the right thing to do. But he's got like this jaded, I'm just going to end everything anyways.
Yeah. And also in this last book that we've most recently read, I know, sorry, we're skipping things a little bit. They actually run into this character who tries to kill Arnold. They attack him and specifically set up a situation in order for him to try and get assassinated. So I think there's even like a deeper plot in the background, because the main female character, Rishi, she actually thinks that that guy is looping as well, because he seemed to have known things that he shouldn't have. And it's just like, well, how else would he have received that information?
Maybe everyone in the goddess that has goddess blood loops. I don't know.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. There's more questions than there are answers at this point. There's 6 volumes out, so I'm assuming there's going to be more. Right now there isn't any more. All of the Japanese volumes have been translated to English. But yeah, so this book is really important, book 4, because book 3 is because it really talks about this whole goddess. It talks about Arnold's bloodline. It talks about this girl's bloodline, kind of like the powers that she holds. And it kind of introduces that whole aspect of this goddess bloodline and how it's important. And in the end, not too much happens, because again, she's there for like prayers and stuff. So,
but it's a light novel. Like in the night novels. Oh my god, light novel. Sorry, I'm starting to catch another cold from our sweet toddler. She let her. Side note: if y'all have kids, just give them you just love them up. But I could do without her literally blowing her nose into my mouth, and then like
she was just sharing.
She was sharing, and I picked her up. I'm like, oh, are you? She leaned forward, like, oh. I'm like, oh my gosh, are you gonna give me a hug? And then she was leaning forward, like she was gonna give me a little kiss on the cheek. I was like, oh, that's so sweet. And then she wiped her nose on my lip. I was like, disgusting.
Anyways, back don't have kids unless you want to be sick all the time. But back to the light novel. So volume 4 was,
it looks like there's 2 people. They're both blonde and they both look mischievous.
Okay, so this book was the most boring out of all of them. Remember how I mentioned that they wanted to do a new money system? It's basically all about that. But while they're doing this, they find out that somebody is trying to add counterfeit coins into their economy, and basically if you do that, then it makes their money moot, right? Because you don't know if it's real or counterfeit. So they end up finding out this plot, and they end up thwarting it, and in doing so they end up meeting Rishi's hunter teacher from her previous life. So he's impersonating a prince, and the prince's sister is there with him, and they're pretending that she's like about to get married, and they're coming for the wedding, like for the Prince Arnold's wedding. And so she meets up with the hunter guy, and basically because he ends up saving the princess as well as a few other plot points kind of get wrapped up in a bow, the hunter ends up staying kind of on as being like loyal to Prince Arnold, and that's kind of all that really happens in that book.
Moving right along to book 5. You gave this one 5 stars.
Yeah, this one was really, really good. So it's it starts off with the 2 of them deciding to go on a date to a opera.
I just have to interrupt by saying this cover looks like the coolest cover.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the most like sexy, and it's the most like fun.
Hell yeah. She's wearing like a stunning red dress. She's wielding a sword. He's got his arm around her waist, and he's got a rose covering his lips. And then there's some girl in the side that looks like she just got shot and she's falling backwards, but she's happy
an opera
about
singer.
it. Oh, okay, yeah.
So she's like singing.
Okay, because the angle is her on a 45, so it looks like she was just like literally she's falling back like
Yeah, no, she's an opera singer. So the book starts off, they're on this date. She's super excited about it because apparently this opera singer is like kind of like a once in a lifetime kind of person to see. So she's super excited, and then all of a sudden she kind of looks out into the crowd, and her ex-fiance is there. And so he makes up a big stink and a big scene while she's there, and so they have like a kind of a negative interaction. But then the show starts, and then the opera singer is basically she passes out on stage. So Rishi runs over. She's like, are you okay, miss? And it seems like she's been drugged somehow. So then there's a mystery of like, what's going on here. And then you find out that this girl, the opera singer, and her ex-fiance has been hired by somebody to try and sabotage basically the Prince Arnold's kingdom. So there's this background plot going on, and we don't know who these people are. They basically, nobody knows, but Rishi kind of takes this opera singer under her wing and is like, don't worry, we'll protect you, we'll get you away from these bad guys. And it basically ends with her and Arnold. She impersonates her on stage, and then basically they have this badass arrow wielding and sword fight on stage with all these bad guys, but the audience just thinks it's
the show.
I
love
so
that. I love that.
It was really great. It was so fun. And then at the end of it, it's Rishi's birthday, and so she's up on the roof, and Arnold goes to see if she's okay, because they just finished this big fight, and that's when the clock strikes midnight. So he says, it's your birthday, what would you like for your birthday? And she's like, well, I just want you to know that nobody's ever allowed me to basically live my life the way that I want to live it, and you do, and I'm so excited to be your wife. But one aspect about the wedding ceremony that I'm just so nervous about is the kiss, because I've never kissed somebody before. So for my birthday present, I know it's asking a lot, can you kiss me? Because I want to practice for our wedding, because I want to be a good kisser in front of your kingdom. And so he's taken aback, because he's shown an interest in wanting to be more intimate with her, and she kind of hasn't reciprocated, so he's kind of let her be. So when she proposes this, he kisses her, and she's like, I didn't get that, can we try it again? And so he just keeps kissing her, and she's like, oh my god, every single kiss is different, I don't know, how am I supposed to master this? I need more practice. And so she's like, no, please, keep kissing me. She's so desperate, but she's also so embarrassed at the same time. And so he's like, don't worry, I'll kiss you whenever you want. And then from there, kind of is a free range from there. So that's how that book ends. And then the sixth book picks up where that one left off. Yep. Where, they're kissing, and they're like, okay, this is great. The wedding's in 2 weeks, so and she's like, okay, well, my wedding dress, the person who's working on it, that's doing a bunch of embroidery on it, he says that the silk thread that they were using is back ordered, so my dress isn't ready yet, so I need to go to him to try on the dress, because he can't come to me since he's still working on it. So Oliver, who is the prince's right-hand man, he is like, okay, well, why don't you go to that town and act this is a pre-wedding trip that you guys are doing to show the citizens that we're happy, we're excited to be getting married, and kind of make a tour out of it. So that is what they do. Oh, and one thing that I should have mentioned in the previous book, in book 5, there is a kind of side plot where, because she still hasn't met Prince Arnold's father, so she kind of doesn't really understand why, but she's trying to keep Arnold away from his dad, because she's like, if I keep him away from the dad, then he can't assassinate him. So that's kind of her master plan on keeping the father alive. Cool. But they're outside, and they're kind of sneaking around in the garden, and the dad runs into them, and so to protect her, Arnold pretends that he's kind of canoodling with her in the garden. So they kind of have this moment where he's like, I'm sorry, I need to kiss you, and make it seem like we're about to hook up in the garden so that my dad doesn't hurt you. And so she gets bad vibes from the dad, real bad vibes. So she's actively understanding a little bit why Arnold might want to kill the father, because he just seems like such an awful character. So in this next book, she's I also kind of, I'm not really quite ready to kind of meet the dad character yet, but yeah, this would look good if we go on this kind of tour. So they do. And while they're there, they end up kind of, again, finding a another plot that needs to be fixed. So unfortunately, while they're on the boat traveling to this city, they find a moving crate, and inside the crate is a tied up woman. And they search the boat, and there's a bunch of women tied up and drugged. So they've run into a sex trafficking situation.
Dang.
Yep.
Hard pivot.
Yeah.
Hard
So this
pivot
one's a little bit
hard pivot in a book that was like, will you hold my hand?
Yes, but actually Rishi knew that this existed, and the reason why she knew that this was happening, and she had kind of planned everything this way so that she could like help solve this this plot point, is because in her sixth life, the soldier that, or the knight that kind of trained her, he was on this mission originally to try and save these women, and she ends up running into him on this trip. So now she's met basically everybody but the apothecary, now that I think about it. She hasn't met anybody from that, like from her second life, but because it was healing.
I think what they wanted to do is they wanted to distance that plot wise from the herbalist. Like it was like there were two that were really close. Like
they were really
close. Alchemist and apothecary. It's like they're close enough that you're kind of like, okay, if you do one story right after the other, it's kind of going to be one note.
Yeah, but because she also heals so many people throughout the series, like it almost feels like her second life is always alive in the series. So if she did meet her teacher, that would be great. I don't really know where it would make sense for that teacher to come to their kingdom.
To be completely honest, I thought he was the same teacher that was the alchemist guy.
No, the alchemist, basically he's just a researcher, and so she did like medical research from the knowledge that she had from her alchemy life, but they are different things. So anyway, so this book is a little bit of a darker theme. Nothing absolutely graphic at all. Like I think it's like 14 plus, like even though it does talk about sex trafficking, like nothing is graphic. Nobody is assaulted or anything like that in the book. They're just kidnapped. And it does say that they were treated very well for captives. So they're trying to figure out this plot line, and like I had mentioned before, there's like this bad guy who tries to attack Arnold, and he's actually about to stab Rishi. And so she's like literally about to get stabbed. She's like, oh no, like I'm gonna end my life early, and he actually takes the knife intended for his fiance in his gut, and so he completely saves her. And she kind of, one of the plot points of this is, again, she met the soldier the knight from her previous life, and he had died saving her. So if you remember, Mark, from the intro, remember how there's that guy that stands in front of her and kind of saves her? That's who is this character, because that's, again, a plot point. So that knight character, I think his name is Joel. He basically is like a narcoleptic. Like what's the word? Narcoleptic. Yeah. So he can't stay awake. He's like always sleeping. So she like kept him awake and made sure that he got to training and meetings on time. And like as a trade-off, he ended up training her, but he was like, I train alone. I'm very talented, but like I don't want anybody to fight with me, and I think like trying to protect anybody would just get yourself killed. But then he ends up dying protecting her. She feels,
to be fair, he was right.
Yeah, so she feels really guilty that like he died protecting her, so she kind of like wants to make it up to him a little bit in this life.
So she lets her fiance get stabbed this time.
Well, no, but the whole idea of like somebody can get hurt if you're not strong enough to take care of yourself, like that's kind of like a plot point of this. And so when that happens, she gets really freaked out. She ends up obviously taking care of Arnold and healing him, which is how she finds out that the goddess blood, it didn't completely heal the wound, but the wound should have like caused a lot more bleeding than it did and stuff like that. So he had a little bit of accelerated healing, but not enough that the wound was completely benign. So she does take care of Arnold, and they do get closer. Again, that's why she ends up sleeping in his bed, because she kind of wants to watch over him and make sure that he's okay. And they do hide the injury from everybody, the fact that he got hurt. And then so there's like, again, more mystery by the end of it, but the author does say in her endnotes that I guess Joel figured out her secret, that she was a woman, and he was actually in love with her in the previous life. So even though he's not in love with her in this timeline, like he was a love interest of hers in the past, just like the hunter character from the previous book also was in love with her.
Oh, so she's building her reverse harem.
A little bit, yeah. So like all of these characters had some romantic interest in her in the past, and I'm not too sure if that's important for later books. But it is
solid,
a point
a
mentioned.
solid showing, right? Like you gave every single one of these either 5 out of 5 or 4.5 out of 5.
Yeah, I just found that it's very clear that the author has a very distinct
Story
end point, like, and the little hints that she's put in, the things that people have said, like I said, it really seems like Arnold's looping. I would not be surprised, because like there are like very subtle hints that would point in that direction, and it's just very well thought out plot wise. I love that the two of them work so well together to basically achieve each other's goals. Yeah,
that was one of the things I really loved, because I read the first volume. I have to say, I feel a little bit bad. Just bought the volumes, and so I was like, oh, I'll read them on my way to work. So I took one. I read one, in like a day between getting to and from work, and then the next day I forgot to take it out of my bag, but I put the second book in my bag. What I also put in my bag was my frozen lunch, and then by the time I got to work, and then I took my lunch out, the books were all wet. And then I left them in my bag because I was busy that day, and I was like a 12-hour day, and I got home late. And then I was like, oh crap, I ruined these books. And the next morning I put them out in the car. I was just like, oh, maybe I'll just leave them out in the sun and they'll dry out. And what that did is it dried them out into the crinkled, like, they're like all curled now.
Yeah, he has a PhD. In chemistry.
I ruined 2 books.
Yeah. Yeah, big brain.
Yeah, I didn't even read the second book before I ruined it.
Yeah.
But no, seems like it's an awesome series. So.
I really love it. Literally, when this book came out, as soon as I
what's that? Did you hear something?
What are you humming?
Baby books, baby books. Do. This is our joint new session. It's popping in right now. It's a podcast within a podcast called Baby Books. Do. We're gonna give 2-minute review of one of Hannah's baby. Well, okay, I said her name, but
our daughter, yeah, Hannah.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we were saying her name or not on the podcast.
Oh, well,
it says here now. We're gonna give a 2-minute review of one of her books. Go. Which one?
You're my little honey bunny.
Oh, I knew it was going to be honey bunny.
No one else like you. You're brave and bright and funny. You make me feel brand new.
You're my darling daffodil. Rain clouds just pass us by.
I love you and I always will. You're my blue sky. Okay, so we've read this book 1,000 times, so you know it backwards and forwards.
She loves it.
I don't know what it is about that book in particular. And what's especially funny is we have 2 other books that are of like a similar format.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same author. She doesn't like them the same way. So that's one of her favorite books.
Honey Bunny is like
You're My Little Honey Bunny is what it's called. Yeah.
But she just loves that book. And I do have to say, it's thick cardstock, which like a thick board book, which I can appreciate because toddlers destroy things and they rip things apart, and it's very durable because she's definitely tried to ruin it.
She has broken board books.
Yeah, absolutely. Torn the spines right off. Like, toddler strength is no joke.
No joke.
She got a hold of my sunglasses the other day and bent it 90 degrees the wrong way. Like you like unfold sunglasses and then you put them on your face. She unfolded it in an arc. Like
how you bend as like a spoon.
Yeah, like how you would bend a spoon, and just like fully a 90-degree crank on it. I'm like, what? How did you even do that? It's hard. Yeah. That's a lot of effort.
Yeah, she did it like she was the Hulk. Like it was just like so easy for her. But anyways, yeah. So Honey Bunny is
5 stars. It's got
our toddler loves it.
Pastel colors. Mm-hmm. They're really nice, muted. Like they're not like it's really colorful, but none of the colors are like fluorescent. So it's just it's nice to look at. Some of these baby books are freaking cursed. The things that are drawn in these are nightmare fuel. It's the eyes, people don't always get the eyes right, and sometimes the eyes just stare into your soul. But no, everything in this book is really cute. And what I really liked about it is it's one of those books where you read a section on a page, and then you turn the page and you get the like, you're my little honey bunny, there's no one else like you. You turn the page and it's the same picture, but now there's a different scene. And the board book is designed so that
it's a cutout.
On each page there's a cutout, so you can still see the text from the previous page, but now you have the second part of the sentence, which is, you're brave and bright and funny, there's no one else like you. And
you make me feel brand new.
You make me feel brand new. But see, Jess has read it more than I have. But it's one of these things where it's just it's just a really well put together baby book.
Yeah. And Hannah really likes it. She likes to turn the pages and kind of stick her hand through the holes, like the cutouts.
Yeah. I will say my big thing I don't like about it is the last page.
It's very dark.
It's very dark, and the text is like gray on black background. It's like, it really should have been white text.
But it was like black text on like a navy background.
Yeah, it's really hard to read the last page. But
Hannah loves it.
Yeah. Anything else about Honey Bunny?
No.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about Seventh Time Loop?
I think if you are new to light novels, then and if you like anime and you want to get into light novels, figure out what is one of your favorite animes, and then go take a look to see if there is a translated version of your favorite anime as a light novel, and try it. Like, if they usually follow the animated version pretty closely, or if it's a manga versus to a light novel, they follow it very, very closely. So if you've read one, you're probably not going to miss too much plot wise. They're probably very close together. But light novels are fantastic. They're very short. They follow a linear story. So I usually like to read series that are completed. So this is one that has me on the edge of my seat every single time that there's a new volume. I kind of read it right away. But if you just want like a quick short read that you can kind of like devour in one sitting, they usually are a complete story within a linear plot. So that's just something that I really, really like. And a lot of books, if they're a series, it's like one book follows one set of characters and then the next book follows another set of characters, or it's one continual story and it kind of like always leaves on a cliffhanger. That's not the case with light novels. For the most part, every light novel has a beginning, middle, and end, and it follows the same characters, and it's just
self-sustained story.
It's a self-sustained story, yeah, and it's a different, like a literary style. So if you've never tried it, definitely try it.
It's closer, honestly, to like, I almost like you're getting, well, it's exactly,
well, they're volumes, right?
They're volumes, and it's like it's I mean, literally the most direct translation I can think of in terms of like a storytelling aspect is it's half of an anime season. Like, like almost every anime that exists breaks up their seasons, 12 episodes, into either halves or thirds. It's like you either have 3 mini arcs or 2 big arcs, and it's like each light novel is one of those big arcs. Yeah. So it's like, it's a very nice, and that's usually what people would binge. Like, each episode's 20 minutes. It's 6 episodes. It's like 3 hours. Like, that's, or what? No, 2 hours? 2 hours. And it's like, that's what, it's a good time. It
is, yeah. Right? So like this novel probably took me 4 hours to read, right? It's very short. It's about 200 pages. So they're very quick, very well-rounded stories. And then, you end up just like kind of following the characters that you met in the first book. They you see them develop. There's usually really great growth. It's just great storytelling. So if you've never tried a light novel, definitely give it a try. If this isn't your stick, there's so many of them out there. Many of them have been officially translated into English. A lot of them do have like paperback versions, or like ebooks. Some of them have been fan translated. So it's just a really cool thing to get into. So if you've never tried it, but you've either been a fan of anime for a bit or just kind of want to try a new style, I think Eastern storytelling is just so different than Western styles, and really having gone through the last few years really absorbing a lot of Eastern stories, it's just been so amazing, and I've just so loved it. They have different tropes than more Western style writing does, and it's just so interesting to kind of discover new things that you like about reading, because like I find myself I read a lot of the same stuff over and over and over again, like enemies to lovers or whatever, and it all kind of sounds the same. Eventually you kind of read the same book over and over again but with different characters, and this is just like a different style, completely beautiful imagery, and I'm just so glad that I've found it, and that honestly there's continual official translations for these books, because I love supporting the original author, but being able to read it in a way that I can understand, because I'm not I'm an English speaker, so I just think it's great. Absolutely. And definitely worth a shot, at least once. A lot of your public libraries will likely also have light novels or manga, which is also something that I don't know if people know and or utilize all that much, as long as it's a popular series. So, there's a lot of ways for you to absorb that type of media.
And if you don't have a library card, go get one, because things like Libby exist, and it's freaking amazing.
Yeah, Libby's amazing.
Audiobooks or normal books directly to your phone.
Yeah, even
using
Hoopla.
Your library card. Yeah,
I don't know if everybody has Hoopla for their library, but it's basically
sounds like a lot of hoopla.
Yeah, so like Libby, you have your library card and you get a certain amount of loans and holds, but for Hoopla it's just like an open catalog, and you get eight loans a month, and you get them instant, so you don't have to wait for them, which is awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, dear listener, for tuning in to another episode of Hubris. We aim to put these episodes out every Monday. We're cutting it close. We're recording this one on a Sunday night, but it'll be out. It'll be out tomorrow morning. But thank you so much for listening. We do ask, if you enjoyed, so give us a like, subscribe to our feed. You're going to get at least one episode a week, so, there'll be something to listen to.
And actually, Storygraph is now, like, doing more visuals and stuff for, like, a monthly wrap-up. So next month, we maybe even have some visuals to go with our wrap-up, which will be kind of cute that we can tweet out.
Oh, dang, that's smart.
Yeah, so they have like a calendar where you can see like
all your books in the month.
All your books in the month, and then they kind of have like a summary, like kind of like how like Spotify does like the wrap up. They can now do that monthly through Storygraph, which is pretty cool.
Keep an eye on it, because I'm not checking that Twitter. I'm not updating anything else. But
or X, I guess.
Not Twitter. X. There'll be something. But thanks for tuning in. And Jess, give us that classic send-off you do every single week.
Arnold Keene is really gorgeous.
Hell yeah, he is.